Okay, so big news. A new Fed chair just got the nod, and it is sending absolute shockwaves through the financial world. And at the heart of it all, a $7 trillion question. Let's get into it. I mean, the second this news hit the wires, Wall Street just panicked. It was an immediate and brutal reaction. Stocks, crypto, even gold, the thing you're supposed to buy when you're scared, yeah, that went down too. About the only thing that actually went up was the US dollar. So you have to ask yourself, what caused this huge market meltdown? Was it some massive corporate scandal, a natural disaster? Nope. It was just one guy getting a new job. And that's really the core of what we're talking about today. How on earth can one person's appointment cause this much fear? Well, to figure that out, we've got to meet the man himself, the guy at the center of this whole firestorm, Kevin Warsh. Now, this guy is no outsider. His resume is pure financial establishment. We're talking Wall Street at Morgan Stanley, then becoming the youngest ever Fed governor way back in 2006. And after that, he spent more than a decade at the Hoover Institution. So yeah, let's just say this is not his first rodeo. So why is everyone freaking out? It all boils down to one simple word: hawk. You see, in the world of economics, a hawk is someone whose number one job, their whole mission, is to destroy inflation. And their go-to weapon? Jacking up interest rates and squeezing the money supply, even if it throws the brakes on the economy. For a hawk, inflation is the ultimate enemy. And that reputation as a hawk, it's stirring up a very specific fear on Wall Street. The fear that the party's over. The end of free liquidity. For years, the markets have been running on a high from all this easy money the Fed has been pumping out. And now, the big worry is that Kevin Warsh is the guy who's about to walk in and just turn off the spigot. And just how big is that spigot we're talking about? Get ready for this number: $7 trillion. That's not a typo. 7 trillion. That's the size of the Fed's balance sheet right now, and it is public enemy number one on Kevin Warsh's list. Okay, so what in the world is a $7 trillion balance sheet? Let's break it down. Basically, it's just a giant pile of assets, mostly government bonds, that the Fed bought up over the years. Why? To pump cash into the economy, especially after the big 2008 financial crisis. You can think of it as a giant life support system for the entire financial world. And you don't have to guess what he thinks about it. In his own words, he calls this thing a relic of crisis-era thinking. Ouch. So he's not talking about a little trim here and there. He wants to take a chainsaw to it, and fast, which means yanking all that support right out from under the market. All right, so he's a hawk. He wants to tighten things up. Case closed, right? Well, this is where the story gets really interesting. It's not nearly that simple. In fact, it gets kind of weird. And here's the big paradox that's got everyone scratching their heads. If he's this big, bad hawk who wants to slash that $7 trillion balance sheet, then why on earth is he also talking about cutting interest rates? And not just cutting them, but cutting them faster than anyone was predicting. I mean, look at this. It's like he has two completely different policy goals. You've got Hawk Warsh over here, who wants to shrink that balance sheet like crazy. That's hitting the brakes. But then you have Dove Warsh on the other side, who wants to slash interest rates. That's hitting the gas. How can you possibly do both at the same time? And just so we're all on the same page, a dove is the polar opposite of a hawk. Hawks hate inflation, doves love growth and jobs. Hawks raise rates, doves cut them. They're night and day. And yet somehow, this guy is claiming he can be both. So what's the secret? How does he possibly make this work? Well, the answer isn't in any traditional economics textbook. It all comes down to a huge, and honestly, pretty radical bet on AI. Okay, stick with me here. This is his logic. Step 1. He's convinced that AI is about to trigger an explosion in productivity, just a massive economy-wide boom. Step 2. Because everyone's so much more productive, the economy can grow like crazy without the usual side effect of runaway prices. No inflation. And step 3, if inflation isn't a problem, then the Fed is totally free to cut interest rates and pour fuel on that fire. The whole theory hinges on this one key idea called the neutral interest rate. You can just think of it as the Goldilocks rate. Not too hot, not too cold. It's the rate that keeps the economy humming along perfectly without slowing it down or letting it overheat. And Warsh's big bet is that AI is going to fundamentally push that Goldilocks rate down, giving him all the room he needs to cut rates. So, if you put it all together, here's the aha moment. He's trying to perform a massive swap. He wants to take out the old, clunky stimulus, that giant balance sheet, and replace it with a new, sleeker stimulus in the form of lower rates. And his entire safety net, the one thing that's supposed to stop this all from blowing up, is his belief in AI. Okay, so that's the grand theory. But let's get real for a second. The billion, or rather, trillion-dollar question is, can he actually do it? And more importantly, what happens if his big AI bet is a bust? The stakes here are just astronomical. I mean, look at this. If he's right, if this AI boom is real, we could be looking at a golden age of economic growth with no inflation, a total game changer. But if he's wrong, oh boy, we could get stagflation, the worst of both worlds, where nothing's growing but prices are soaring, or just full-blown runaway inflation, an absolute disaster that would destroy the Fed's reputation for decades. And it's not like he can just flip a switch. The guy is facing a minefield of obstacles. First, he has to win over a Fed board that's basically still Team Powell, the previous chair's crew. That's a tough sell. Then, he's got to get through a Senate confirmation that is guaranteed to be a political brawl. And even if he clears all that, he has to actually do it. This insane tightrope walk between hawk and dove without sending the markets into a complete tailspin. No pressure, right? So that brings us right back to where we started, that $7 trillion question. Is Kevin Warsh a visionary, seeing the future of an AI-powered economy before anyone else? Or is he a gambler, making a reckless, multi-trillion-dollar bet with the entire global economy? We're about to find out.